talk about how we
Your
first.
first experiences in Greek dancing.
Okay.
And how that grew into the folk
Where
dance
is okay?
festival.
All right. Okay. So my first experience in Greek dancing was at the St. Spyridon's Church Hall as a, I think I was maybe 12 years old. My mom would take us there on a Friday night. They had folk dance classes, and we would go. There was 4 siblings, my 3 siblings and I. We would go Friday night, and my mom would, I think it was 50 cents at the time, and we would learn how to dance. And from that, I believe from that the Aegean dancers formed, and then we would go to different venues throughout the year, and we would promote our church festivals at the malls or at wherever they wanted us to go. We would do spots on the TV. Sun Up San Diego was one of them, and we would go to the studios and do a little promotion for the festival. So from there, whenever the inception, 40 years ago, the inception of the FDF, the Aegean Dancers, and myself, was one of the first groups that performed there, one of 5 groups, and I was participating there and have participated for many, many years as a dancer, as a director. My own children have participated. I'm still directing with Maria here, and my children are now at the point where my daughter's a director. My son, both my sons have danced with, actually all 3 of my sons have danced as an Aegean. So been a very exciting and wonderful time.
Where's your daughter a director?
She's directing in San Jose. So she left to go to school, and she joined the San Jose Community Church there, St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, and she's the director of Axios. And I think last year they did medal. They got the medal, and I'm very proud of her, taken what she has learned from us and shared it with others in that community. So
That's great.
yes.
Maria?
I started when I was about 13 years old, and we would go to church. My mom would drop my brother and I off. We were in 2 different groups, and she wasn't going to come and go, so she would drop me off at his practice, and which was 2 hours prior to mine, and that's how I started dancing. And very shortly thereafter, because of that time span that I was there were all kinds of kids running around and spending time at the church, trying to find their niche and their place. And there were 6 younger siblings of the group that my brother was in, which was younger than I was, early elementary school. And they didn't have a place. They didn't have a director to take them on because they were very young. And that's how I started my directorship. They were 4, 5, and 6 years old, 6 little kids. I was hanging around, they were hanging around, and we merged, and that's when I started directing, when I was 13, 14 years old.
Did you feel like you were a leader at that time? I mean, that sounds unusual to me for someone to take a group like
I
that.
didn't. I actually just felt bad for them, and I had the time. So it started kind of more or less that I was grooming them to enter one of these groups. So, and occupying them, if you will, a babysitting service. Since I was hanging out, they were hanging out, kind of getting in the middle of everything. So I took them aside, and then we started one dance, and then we started another dance. And all of a sudden, it just kind of took off, and we said, well, why don't we just do our own thing and join everybody at FDF? And we did, and that group stayed together for about 15 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was that first FDF like? Those first years, let's say.
Small. Obviously, they're not as many groups as we have today, but it was fun. It was the closeness. There weren't so many groups, so you got to know a lot of the people. It was in the church hall. They rented bleachers, which I'm sure you've heard. The medals were different. They were small, flat little pieces. Just this small little thing. The dancing was fun. Again, it was just the camaraderie. Nobody really cared about winning or placing. I think as the concept of FDF grew, then the competition became more and more fierce, if you will. But it was just a time to meet new friends and just see old ones from year to year. It was just fun.
What's the role of dance back then in your parish life? versus now?
The role of dance now as opposed to then. I think then it was a little bit more, we just wanted to get together and dance. It wasn't, this was so new to all of us, and so we wanted to become a part of this team, a part of this community. Whereas now, I think it's the bar has been set so high, it's competitive. Of course, the fellowship is still there, but also the craft is really intense, and it's at a much different level. It's very authentic, and a lot of research has been done. Whereas before, technology was different then. We'd watch a movie, we'd watch somebody had been somewhere and brought it back and taught it to us. Now, you can get very, very specific on all these dances that are taught in Greece and perfect it like even better than they do in the homeland. And I think if you enjoy the purity of dance, you can come and get very entertained here. It's beautiful. And there's a lot of hard work that's been put into it. So as before it was more just let's go out and dance. Now it's like let's perfect the dance. I think that's the biggest difference.
Right. And so as far as the costumes too, did you make your own costumes back in the day?
Well, our parents would make all the costumes. Not that they don't make them now, but our parents would sit while we were at practice, and they would embroider the aprons or the jackets with embellishments. I think now a lot of it, some of our costumes come from Greece. We do have. We're fortunate enough to have some of the mothers that participated many years ago sew our costumes that we use today. So a lot of our costumes are handmade as well, but certainly the caliber of the costumes, just like the dance, has really stepped up as well.
I think now also you have more choices, though. It's become so big that somebody said, hey, I'm going to mass produce a bunch of Greek costumes from different regions, and you can just order them as well. So that opportunity has been given because it takes so much work to make these by hand, so much time and effort.
And you were speaking before, and I think we wanted to shoot it again, about your roles as moms and directors and mothers of dancers, and you just seem incredibly busy to me. And if you could tell us how you do that, how you keep up.
We both have 4 children, which is very unusual. We have very mirrored lives as far as how busy they are and how much they're committed to so many other things besides Greek dance. But we just made it a priority, and for our families to have our kids be a part of this. So, they learn this beautiful craft, but they develop this wonderful relationship and friendship which they have, and it was very important to us. So we're just busy, and we just got a little busier. So it worked for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think part of it too, the kids have loved it and continue to love it. They love the dance, they love the culture, and they love the camaraderie amongst the children. And it's been easy for us. Easy in a sense that we don't have to force them to go. Yes, our schedules and soccer games and every other sport activity gets in the way sometimes, but we just make it work. It's just something that they love, and we know how much we loved it. So it was something that it was happily passed on to them, and certainly we would make those sacrifices to have them continue.
Well, that's a perfect way to say it. When there's a will, there's a way, and we've come up with that. If you really want to get it done, you'll get it done, and we have. So whenever they look at us and they're like, I'm like, if there's a will, there's a way, and now that just kind of stuck.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. And in our community too, for myself personally, there was an illness in my family, and so this goes beyond the dance. These children were so affected by something happening to one of their peers that they all rallied together. This became more than just dance. The dance group became, in my personal situation, our savior, if you will, because they were there for us continuously, bringing in friendship. I'm going to get emotional, but are just giving us the support we needed besides just getting together to
dance.
It
no longer became dance. It really became, let's support one of our own. And the dance was just secondary. It was, let's get together, whether it was in the hospital rooms, just goofing around or thinking about what their next set would be, or FDF, because it happened right before FDF, and it was.
How old was George when you got
He was 12.
Can you tell us a little
Sorry,
bit about
sorry. No, he was not. He was 14. He was 14, and
what were his symptoms and how did you know? Or did you know he was sick?
he just had a muscle pain in his left fibula, and we attributed it to a soccer injury that just needed to heal, and it turned out to be something else. It wasn't that. And for them, for those kids at that vulnerable age, to all of a sudden see this healthy kid being diagnosed with a scary disease, as in Ewing sarcoma, it's a bone cancer. For me personally, to see how these kids rallied around him. At one of our dance practices, shortly before George was going to start chemotherapy, we had a shaving party where they all got together, the boys, and shaved their heads. So they were going to be going through this journey, in a sense, with him, physically at least. And they decided to do that together. It was the most touching moment. I probably will never forget that. To see all these boys with all these head of hair, and then to see them all gone and posing together for a picture.
Well, and then another thing, when I remember, it was right before FDF, and George couldn't come to opening ceremonies, so they FaceTimed him. So he was actually with us during opening ceremonies because they were holding up his phone, or one of the kids' phones, and George was watching opening ceremonies. So that was really.
So George says to me as this happened, and we had no plans of going. Stephen, my oldest son, went with Patricia, and George's life is Greek dancing. And for him to have that taken away from him, it was almost worse than the disease, if you can imagine. And after they did that, he just looked at me and he says, "Mom, can't we just go? This is Thursday night." We had no plans of him dancing, being a part of this. He had his first chemo. And I kind of called his oncologist and I said, "You know, George really enjoys this. Is there any way he can kind of just participate?" And she says to me, "Will there be a lot of people?" I said, "I'm not sure, not so many, I don't think." And she goes, "Okay, if there's not that many people, then just keep him kind of isolated and, you know, it's okay, let him go." And as soon as George heard that, we just put this thing into action. And before you knew it, Friday he was on stage with them, just rooting them on and supporting me. It was the most touching experience of my life. And that year we actually won gold.
We won gold. We got one gold.
And we, not only because of the dancing, but for us, we thought it was just the emotional journey inside. These kids felt it and wanted it and just danced their hearts out. Because I remember his oncologist saying, "Well, is there going to be a lot of people?" And I felt horrible. I'm like, "I'm not sure exactly the amount, but there'll be some people."
Well, and the best line was.
Yeah, right?
The best line was, "Patricia, why don't you just take George's costumes just in case?"
Just in case.
You know, that just in case.
We were just so hopeful. We do that a lot.
Yeah.
Just in case.
So you had his costume
Oh,
here?
it was ready to go.
And
Just
you
in
went on
case.
stage and
Yeah, he did all he could. I mean, he had just had his first treatment, but you know, it didn't stop him. And Christopher, her son, was there wheelchairing him around because he was in a wheelchair. But he got up on that stage and just joined in as just watching his friends dance. He was a part of it. They were a part of it together,
do you think Greek dance helped him heal?
for sure, 100%.
Could you say
Yeah,
that?
say
Say
Greek
that
dance.
sentence?
Oh, sorry. Yes, for me, Greek dancing helped him heal. It gave him a purpose besides the obvious purposes to live. For him, he's so passionate about this. He's so passionate about Greek dancing, and he wanted to get there, not as a participant or watching it, but get back there on his feet and dance. So yes.
And how did you do through that experience? I mean, you're a mother first of all, but just was it supportive for you to be part of the community? And
I mean, I don't think I could have made it without them. I mean, every step of the way, from my girlfriends to the dancers, we never felt alone. We had a cheering committee that you wouldn't believe, and it gave us, you know, on those dark days, it just lifted our spirits, and we kept going and going and going. Yes, I definitely, my family and I could not have made it without our community, our dance community.
how's Chris doing with not being able to dance this year?
He,
Just so you could say my son was injured.
Yeah, my son, 2 days before this year's FDF, he had a soccer injury. So he damaged his MCL, so he's in a knee brace, and you can see that it's just not. It's hard for him to sit and not get up there because he really feels the music, and you can see that he really wants to get up there. And to my surprise, yesterday during a semifinal round, he got up and started doing what he could, but he feels it, and he really wants to be out there. So it's hard for him. It's hard for him to watch his friends, his group there without him. But he's doing the best he can. He's supporting him from the sidelines.
And George even said, hey, dude, you were there for me 4 years ago, wheeling me around in that wheelchair. I'm going to be there for you. And if you get that urge, that like I did, just get up there and dance. And he did.
We talked before, when it was noisy, about what it is to be Greek in America and why it's so important to preserve this culture. And you both had some good answers for that.
Yeah, for me, I think whatever culture you come from, it's nice to preserve it. Because how else would we learn things about different people in different regions, different areas? So whether you're Greek, you're Japanese, you're any part of the world, South American, I think it's important to preserve it all. In our case, we love to dance, and that's one of our positive parts of our culture, and I think it's important to pass that down. And what do Greeks like to do, Patricia? They like to dance, drink, be happy, be fellowship, togetherness, and that's what this whole thing is. It's nonstop togetherness, and there's a little competitiveness in there too, but look, see, like this little guy here.
I also think it just makes them proud of who they are, proud of where they come from. I know myself as an elementary age student, they would ask us during those international events that they had at school. You know, my teacher knew my sister and I were Greek, so my mom would take out the fustanella, and my brother take out the fustanella, and we have pictures of us in our little Amalia costume, and my brother in his fustanella, and just standing there and doing what we could. Not that we were great dancers, but it was just the fact that we were so proud of our culture and what we stood for. And through our church, they brought the culture alive and the dance alive, and that's how we keep that with us and pass it on to our children.
I mean, it's funny in our household too is, the boys' non-Greek friends would say, hey guys, George, Stephen, come on, let's go to a football game, or I got to do this, or let's go do that. And they would say, hey guys, we can't, we have dance practice. And it became an ongoing joke where like they would call each other, and George goes, hey, you guys want to go and do this, blah, blah, blah. George, we can't, we've got dance practice. So it became a part of everybody's lives because it dominates. It's something that would happen 2 or 3 times a week in some cases, and it would become an ongoing joke. Well, I can't, George. I've got dance practice.
Well, Christopher just had a friend come over the other night, and after you had said something about watching the YouTube videos of all the old FDF, so we pulled up, I don't know, 2009, I think, with the kids when they were so small. And his friend watched it. He goes, dude, this is what you do when you go to dance practice? This is really cool. So it's kind of neat to see that and see how excited his friends get when they see that kind of stuff.
The people in the early years that started FDF, like Bishop Elitius, I'm not going to say his name right, Peter Pilglos, Don and Ellie Hyatt. Do you want to talk about any of them?
Well, Don and Ellie Hyatt were one of my first instructors. I mean, they were at the church hall, and we would come and learn the dances with Don and Ellie there, and they would teach us, and we would think, they're not Greek, and they know all these Greek dances. How is that possible? And they just knew everything. Had libraries of albums then, and just put on the music, and they would do this dance, and it was like, wow. I knew all this stuff. So
it was their passion.
It was, and we were able to learn so much from them, and it was magical, I guess is what you can call it.
And the bishop was supportive of it too, right? Was he Father Melitios then, or Bishop?
Those are my girls. Did it all themselves.
She did it with him.
Yeah. See? At least the stuff we've taught him has worked, right?
That's right.
I don't know Father Melitios.
I don't remember. I remember Father
Anthony.
or Bishop
Bishop
Anthony,
Anthony.
and how excited he was for us to be there. How excited he was for all of us to get together for this event year after year, and just his presence at these events. We thought, wow, Bishop Anthony's here and he's cheering us on, and he, it just was, he was just a larger than life person, figure in the FDF. And when he passed, it was very sad, or there was something missing, and there still, I think, is something still missing, that little spark that he brought to FDF.
As a patriarch for this event, it was very important to him that everybody embraced this, from the youngest child to the grandparents, and just came together once a year as a community and just enjoyed being here. It was very important to him.
Because I think FDF is not just about dancing. It has grown to include your faith, your fellowship, just as FDF stands for faith, dance, fellowship. It encompasses all of that. And I think they've done such a great job bringing all that together. It's just a wonderful event.
He loved the children too. Everywhere he'd walk, it was like the Pied Piper. All these kids would just come and just gather and just want to be close to him, hug him. It was very touching.
Is there anything that you think the organization, and I know now it's a big organization, and like these things last, that isn't happening now?
I think they're doing everything they can to preserve this and to keep families interested and children stimulated and inspired by it.
What I'm thinking is to me, it seems like in today's culture, it must be really hard to find families that can devote this kind of time.
I agree. I think it's hard to do this now as opposed to when we were growing up. It's a different time now. Our children are so much involved in so many other things. So it goes back to what I was saying. When there's a will, there's a way. If it's important to you, you're going to find a way to do it. And I think this platform, to get to this platform, inspires the kids to keep working at it, because this is the climax. This is the big hurrah, and they want to get here, and this is the only way you can. You've got to practice and make it to this point.
Well, I think, like with our community, this year we have 4 groups here participating in FDF. A lot of them, this is their first time coming, and so we asked them yesterday, Thursday night, was this what you expected? They're like, no, this is much grander than we ever imagined. So now, I think once they come and just are bitten and experienced this event, they're hooked. They're hooked. So it's just.
It's funny for us, like for me, Patricia just is writing out her last child, and everybody comes back in some capacity, but my 2 girls, they're just getting started. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought I was on my way out. It will last forever, because that's the hooking, they're hooked.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think we wanted to go back to where the children that you taught, their children are now dancing, if you can speak to that.
Renee, one of our directors, is one of the children I was talking about that were running around and finding a place to be. So she used to be one of my dancers. And she went to school, came back, got married, had her family, and now what do? You come back in some capacity and teach or be a part of supporting the Greek dance. So it does come full circle. And our own children, they think that we've drilled them for so long with this Greek dancing, they leave it for a little bit, and what do they want to do? They want to come back. I know George has a passion for teaching. Alexia, her daughter,
directs. So yes, it's nice to see. It's nice to see them come back and really carry on what we have done, what many others have done as well, to keep this culture and this event alive. Because without them, it won't survive.
Yeah. I wonder, this is kind of a technical question, but talking about what makes a good dancer and how you decide what dances you're going to teach to your groups for competition. What are some of the techniques?
Well, I think what we try to, and in fact, we said that to them before they went on today. Just go out there and have a good time. We want you to make them want to watch you.
dance for yourself.
Dance for yourself. Dance for your group. Dance for your just have a great time, and then all that other stuff will come once they relax, once they aren't so worried about the technical stuff. Yeah, we'll teach them, the step and the styling and that type of thing. But they really have to just kind of relax and just feel it, I guess.
Own it. Own your performance. And dance as if you're just at a party and dancing for yourselves, not that a crowd's watching. And it transforms something different when that gets in their head, as opposed to thinking it over and over again when you're actually performing. When you actually become part of the environment, it's a whole different level. And, we've succeeded at that, and sometimes we don't. It's a performance. Nerves get the best of you. But,
well, we've learned a lot through the years, too. As far as, we mentioned a little bit about how do you pick a region, or do you redo a region year after year? Well, once you learn a specific region, it takes time to really master the styling and the steps and the feeling of being comfortable with that type of dance. So I think it's fair to say that, doing that performance or that set multiple years in a row only makes it better. So because it's difficult. If you go from an island to a Mediterranean, to a Thracian, it's different types of styling and different types of dancing. So repeating it does help make them better.
And the different parishes don't specialize in any region, right? Everybody does it.
It's a free for all. You can pick whatever you want. Just, you have to work on it. And some people are more skilled in certain places because it takes research. It takes, like our Tony Petrolius, he's able to go to these areas in Greece and be right in there in the thick of things with all the people that are there. I don't want to use it. Well, the actual people from the islands or the villages that are out there in that rawness and dancing. And then he's in there shoulder to shoulder with them, and we're privileged to have that brought back to us. And then teach the kids. We teach all of us.
How old are most of these dances that they're doing?
I don't know. That one I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, we're talking in the 18 something, right?
All right.
And because back then they would eat, drink, and dance
That's a form of entertainment.
Probably.
with everybody, right? With all the cultures and of the world, right? Mhm.
No, you're good. You know them.
Go ahead.
Lisa.
Let's think. What do we say about them?
Just in there, in terms of the earliest years and sort of getting FDF off the shelf.
I think, along with Bishop Anthony, the Priolas family, Mr. and Mrs. Priolas, it was very important to them too that they spearheaded or started this journey we've been on for 40 years. And they had a vision together, and they said, you know what, this could be something pretty huge. Mm-hmm. It'll bring so many people together that would normally not know one another and bring them into this environment to dance.
Were you to a management team?
No.
No?
No.
Well, when it was in San Diego, you were away at school.
I was away at
weren't you?
school.
So when it was in San Diego, I was a part of it for a couple of years then, but she had gone away to school at that point. Because it was in San Diego for quite a long time before they ventured. It would go somewhere and then come back to San Diego. And then it became too big. And I miss the years though they used to go to different cities. Though different cities would host it. But this is nice and consistent because this is home base and everybody knows every year to plan for this here.
Right. Yeah, because it's a big undertaking.
Mm-hmm. And they've got it down pat now.
Now the
Now
Management
it's the management team.
Right.
Because when I was in Long Beach, they hosted, I don't even remember the year, they hosted it at the Anaheim Convention Center here. And it was the community that put it together. And I was part of that group when they put it together.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah, you
To
know,
go from one community to the next.
well, and I'm sure that,
Could you speak up a little
oh, I'm
more,
sorry,
please?
okay. What was the question?
We were talking about the venue moving from one parish to another.
Oh yeah, because the consistency. You know, if now that the management team runs and operates it, it's just so consistent. They know year to year what to expect. What went wrong last year? Let's fix it this year. Whereas when you take it to each community, it was hard, just to get the volunteers, just to make sure that we're doing, and the cost of the community. And I don't remember the exact details of how it was run, but I do remember it was. We had to get volunteers. We had to, figure things out, if you will. So it's nice that there's a consistency now, and you can see that in the event. You can see that.
Yeah, it's very well run.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
They've got it down.
Yeah,
They've got it down.
Did FDF help you? I don't even know what you two do. If you could say what you do for a living, if you're homemakers, it seems to me this has got to be your lives, but.
We both have full-time jobs on top of it, on top of our full-time family. I work for a company in San Diego. I work for Qualcomm, and I am an administrative assistant for them. And I guess it does. I work with lots of people, and you have your own team that you have to manage there, and personalities you have to work through, just like a dance group, right? With all different personalities in there.
I work with a company called Ecolab, and I work in their food safety division, so I do health inspections, if you will, food safety.
Everything's dealing with people.
Yeah, exactly.
From the dance groups and dealing with hormonal teenagers to dealing with, in my case, a bunch of engineers and having them settle down and let me do all that other stuff for them, busy work as they do what they need to do. And in her case,
well, it's just, being able to multitask, just like you do here. There's so much going on. You've got, 3 or 4 different groups, or in our case, 4 kids that you've got to deal with and run around all day. Same thing in your work environment. You're able to multitask and during the times that we were directing and having to worry about sets and music and this and that and trying to get our work done, just like, wow, sometimes it got overwhelming, but it worked out. Everything
where there's a will, there's a way.
Everything seems to work out.
That'd be the name of the documentary. Do you have anything you'd like this documentary to make, or something you'd like to see that?
I'm grateful that somebody wanted to do this. It has touched so many lives in so many different ways, all personally their own journeys, and overall, like if you come into this environment, you'll hear different people kind of cheering each other on, saying hello to one another. People from different cities had started relationships and now married with children, and I'm just glad somebody cared enough to tell the story, show the journey, and we're privileged to be a part of it. So thank you for even asking us to sit down with you and share our feelings.
Well, and it's a great story. It's great to see where at its inception it was 5 groups, and now to see all these children and to continually see the little ones coming through. It raises the hair on your arm to just watch them dance and just get together and be part of all of this, because it's really truly something magical. So.
Thank you. Anything that we've missed?
George wanted to make sure 4 years ago, when he wasn't able to dance the way he had wanted to, his whole purpose was to make sure that he worked hard enough to get back to where his passion was. And he even said to me, the musicians that we're using this year, 4 years ago, were a part of the program, was a part of our sets then. And he said, gosh, I never got to dance with them, because he was standing on the sides with them, but he never actually had to dance. So he was so looking forward to actually getting his feet with that music. And for him, he wanted to be able to not do it only with himself, but with his brother and his friends that he's grown up with. It was really important to him to come together. And I remember how sad he was that Christopher got injured, because he thought, as the years go by, they don't know how much longer they're going to be doing this. Life comes in and kind of interrupts things. They go away to school, they do different things. So it's not for just him. It's about the relationship he has with the people that they've had this journey with.
But I do have to say, when George was through his rehabilitation and just getting back on his feet to dancing, he just worked and worked his work ethic to get back to just dancing and being as good as he can be was amazing. He wears a brace, and you would never know if you saw him dance. You would never know that George has a brace and has limited use of his foot, right?
And he has something called drop foot, and through his surgery, the nerves that connect our movement for our ankle was severed, so he doesn't have that anymore. So without his brace, he drags his foot. So it's amazing that he can be able to do what he can. And he didn't let the brace own him. He owns the brace. So he tells the brace what to do for him.
Well, and yesterday during practice, he was practicing Cretan. I said, George, do you wear that brace during, when you wear that boot? He goes, no, because I need that movement in my, I need to be able to do a specific movement, and he can't do it with the brace. It doesn't allow him that flexibility. So, but you can't even tell.
It's amazing how
So he wasn't wearing the brace
not
today?
during Cretan, he was not.
Wow.
with the boot on.
And he did a lot.
And at first he felt like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to adjust so much of my life to this condition. But it finally got to the point, he's like, okay, if you're not going to do it the way you're supposed to, I'll figure out another way to dance it. And he has adjusted. The boot actually helps him because it's more confined, right? It kind of gives him that support. And he says, nope, I'm going to shed that brace right now and just dance.
I know he wore the brace last year, right?
Yes.
I saw
So it's a
one.
skill that he's developed through the years, strengthening the rest of his leg to compensate for that.
And how was it yesterday or today seeing him? How was it seeing him on stage as a mom? How was it? Watching him on stage.
The best way I can say is I'm very, very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to see him dance. It's simple as that. I'm so thankful and grateful that child can, where we didn't think he was going to have his limb to do that he was spared of that and was able, from the grace of God, to be able to be okay and come out and join his friends and dance. So for me, it's very emotional, and I'm just very, very, very thankful.
He's a great kid.
They all are. And we're very lucky. We're very lucky. We're very lucky.
I think we say we have 4 kids, but I think we've had 24 with all with all our kids.
Isn't it hard to see them go when they...
It is. But you know what's wonderful, Patty, is when they come back. For us, like yesterday, where they're ready to spread their wings and get rid of us, and then all of a sudden they're like this. They even joined us in after-hour things that we were doing. They were like, "Where are you? We want to come to you." So it's that long-lasting bond that we're very grateful for.
Well, I have to tell a story. One time we weren't going to come to FDF because we didn't think we could do it, or we just didn't have. Was it the time? It was
Some
just-
challenges had.
So we brought the kids together and we said, I think maybe we should take a break this year. And I think all of them looked at us and just...
The one thing they said, because you've told us not to be quitters. You've told us not to be quitters. And we looked at each other and were like, okay.
Our words came back to haunt us.
And they're right. So
Good.
we tied up those laces and off we went,
Off we
right?
went, yeah.
Be dedicated.
We had a great time.
We love the kids. For Patricia and I, it's not about the medals. It's not about, even though it's great to have them, I'm not saying we're very, very fortunate for what we've received, but we truly love our kids. Not only the ones we've given birth to, but the rest of the extension.
To see them on stage and to watch them, they're our kids. They're our kids.